We've had several requests from people wanting me to talk about other artists' work, wanting me to analyze other artists' work. And we've done that in some of our quick tips. Uh, but this time, what I want to talk about is what's unusual about Sargent. And if you will look at quick tip before this one, you'll see I was talking about what's unusual about Winslow Homer. So this quick tip and the one before it is all about what's unusual about these painters. People adore John Singer Sargent, as I do. Painters especially adore his work. And if you're accustomed to seeing Sargent's work, do you notice actually what he's doing with his subjects? Now, if you go to wikiart.org, wikiart.org, and search for John Singer Sargent, you have there about 800, I think, of Sargent's paintings over a period of time. Now remember, Sargent was working in the 19th and in the 20th century. He was working in the last half of the 19th century. That was in the 1800s, folks, quite a while ago. But when in his earlier work, he was focused more on doing portraits of people, wealthy people who could afford portraits during that time. Lots and lots and lots of portraits you'll see, and different ways of arranging those portraits. And then he later on started going out and doing nature and things that he saw people doing, exploring people, exploring all kinds of things, but becoming more of a plein air painter in his later works. And then he would go back to doing portraits. But there's something very unusual about this painting. This painting is called Kashmir. And if you will look at it really close and you go and look at other Sargent work, you'll see something very unusual here. And that is, this is the only painting in all those paintings he did, this is the only one that he did from his imagination. Well, not from his imagination, but that he imagined rather than capturing a scene or capturing images of people. He used one figure here, his niece, and I have seen an argument going on about which niece it was. So I'm not going to go into that sort of thing. I don't think it's important. What's important is his niece modeled for him, and we think that she was probably around 11 years old. Well, these look like they're older than that. They still are young women. But what he's done here is he's created a painting from an idea rather than painting from something that he's responding to. The only painting in his entire body of work that does this. That's what's unusual about Sargent. I want you to take a look at some of the things he's doing. Now, in these quick tips, from time to time, I'll talk about composing principles. I don't think of them really as principles, but because when you think of something as a principle, you think of something you're trying to make your painting do to match that. But I always think of principles as something that we do to make things happen. See the difference there? And what Sargent was doing, one thing he was doing here, he was using the principle of repetition and variation. And you see it. You see, I don't even have to point it out to you. Repeat, 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 repeat. And we see 7 images there. And what we see also repeated within the images is the same color of clothing, the same color within the clothing. We see the same color here. You see all the way through these people, as he's presented to us as people, these people are not dressed in different clothing, as we would see if they happen to be a group of people going somewhere. But we don't really know where they're going. Nevertheless, let's look at what he did to the arrangement of it. Now, if you've watched other quick tips, or if you subscribe to my Saturday newsletter, my Saturday morning art thoughts, I talk a lot about how we place images in our format, in the format that we're putting a painting into. We're placing images in a two-dimensional space so that when you, the viewer, look at those images, your eye stays within that two-dimensional space. We're arranging these images and we're guiding your eye as we're arranging these images. Now watch what he's done here. We see these two images grouped and facing in, well, I did that wrong, didn't it? Facing in this direction. We see this image, she's walking in this direction, but her face is looking out at the audience, at us, or the viewer. And we see this one now also facing this edge, going in this direction. We see the back of this one, and yet she's still facing that direction. And then we see this one looking out at us. And then we see over here, we just see a portion of an image, and we see some hands there. And we really are not quite sure about this one, whether the image is going out or coming in. Is she going out and does she have her hands folded behind her? Or is she coming in with her hands folded in front of her? So this he's used to pull you back into the painting as a painting element, or as a composing element, a composing piece. He's used this one to pull you back in, to keep you from going off the edge, because these are moving in that direction. Very cleverly done. It's the only painting in his entire body of work that really is arranging images with that kind of cleverness. And you'll find the way he composes images in other pieces where he's working from an image he's looking at. You'll see him using these various composing techniques, but this one is where he knocks the ball out of the park. Now, something else I want you to notice. You've heard of the you've heard of the rule of thirds, and I'm sure you've heard of the rule of thirds, and you've also heard that you must place your images so that you have a focal point. Do you see a focal point here? We don't really see a specific focal point. Would this be the focal point in the center? Or would this be a focal point? Or this? So this is one painting that we can look at from a master painting in our history and say, no focal point, not really. He's created the whole painting, but he's arranged the images in such a way that you pause. So you'll pause with her as you move along. You'll pause with her, and you'll pause with her. And he's carrying you right through, but giving you visual pauses. You also pause right here by the way he's grouped those images. Now, rule of thirds, coming vertically on the painting, we don't see them divided, and we don't see any kind of division that you could call rule of thirds. But if we look at how the images are grouped, we do see here, this space, if I could make my fingers do that, this space, these figures from here right over to here, then from here over to here, this grouping, and then there over there, we see those almost, the division of spaces they occupy are almost the same. So that is sort of playing with the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds really didn't come into the vocabulary of painters until about Sargent's time. Is during the I think during the 18th century, maybe a little earlier than Sargent's time, when that concept of rule of thirds came into our lexicon or I should say maybe our visual vocabulary. Now something else you can see here is a principle I've talked to you before, shown you before, and that is the principle of rebatment. Now, this you've got to look really, really close for, but every rectangle has a square and a rectangle within it. We'll find that in the golden mean, the golden rectangle. It's built on the square and the rectangle on the other side of the square. So if you look here and look at the size, and this is proportion, look at the size here and just kind of visualize that size as it goes over about right here. You can see that that's about the square of that rectangle. So that's a rebatment we see about right up in here. Not exact, but enough so that we can feel that kind of unequal division of the space of the canvas. If you go on the other side, you can see sort of a similar thing we if we're looking over here, and you look from just look at the length of that edge, and then we come back over here, and you come back to right here, about right here, where he's put that space between these figures, and you see there's the square on that side. So we see kind of almost a double rebatment used here to arrange these figures, and we see almost an honoring of the rule of third, but you don't see a focal point. And something else I want to point out to you that he's done here, very influenced by the abstraction that was emerging during his time, and that is that the surroundings, the environment, is not defined. We don't know where they are. He's not told us by the environment. He's not told us at all where they're defined. He's used the repetition of colors, the colors that he's used here, some of the colors that he's used here, and then he's used some colors that contrast, for the greens, for example, that he's let pop out here that we don't see in here, but they give kind of a complementary effect with the oranges we see, because the orange has the red in it. That's the complement of green. So we see that kind of thing he's built for the environment, but we see the influence of abstraction. The abstraction is here. So he's not given an environment in that painting that shows you where these people are. And in fact, if you start just looking at the background, you see all kinds of little abstract things going on, more of a design approach in the environment than you see in many of these other paintings, his paintings, where he's giving you the environment, showing you the environment that people are in, but not in this one. So this one is so different, and it's really only one. So different from all the other paintings that Sargent has done. I hope you'll go over to wikiart.org, search for John Singer Sargent, and scroll down and just notice how he's handled the images as responding to images or people in environment, or when he's done sometimes just buildings in an environment, that sort of thing. Look at that and then compare that to this one piece that is almost abstract, and yet it's not. Be sure and view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell, so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section, and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianneMize.com, where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.